Hi, everybody. Welcome to Only Stupid Answers. I'm DJ Wooldridge, and we're here to talk about the Watchmen finale. And with me, I've got some very special guests. First off,
hi.
We have Rachel Evans.
Hello.
Tell us about yourself, where you're from, where people can find you.
Oof. Okay, well, I have a show called Dark 5 on Snarled, the YouTube channel, and Amazon. And I'm also a paranormal expert on Travel Channel's Paranormal Caught on Camera.
Cool. I've got some questions for you after the show.
Sure. And I'm the social media manager of Smosh.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
And Smosh Games.
Nice.
Nice.
We just had Matt Robb on.
I love him.
Yeah, to talk about Crisis on Infinite Earths. And we also have Adam Hlavik.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So tell the kids at home where you're at, what you do.
You guys can find me on Hyper RPG. I'm an executive producer there. I help run all their YouTube stuff, and we're producing a bunch of cool stuff on Twitch as well. Live content every single week, 40 hours a week. And then every day we're putting out something on YouTube. And my weekly show is Hyper Heroes with Hector Navarro and Augustine Rios, where we talk about a lot of the same stuff that we talk about here. So I'm super excited to be here to talk about this finale of Watchmen.
All right, and on the phone all the way from sunny Australia is Sam Basher.
Hello, good morning. It is bright and early, and I'm ready to talk about this. Not one goddamn person in this whole godforsaken, on-fire country watches this show, so I need to talk to somebody about it ASAP.
So wait, are you going to go to bed the second we're done? Is that what's going to happen?
That would be correct, yes.
Okay.
What part of Australia are you in?
We're on the west coast. Best coast?
Okay.
I can say because I'm leaving tomorrow. I'm in Fremantle, and it's right beneath Perth, and off the coast is that magical little island where quokkas live all by themselves, and it's great because they'll come up and steal your money and your trash.
Steal your trash.
Oh, come here, take my trash.
My sister lives in Australia.
Where?
Cool.
Fremantle?
No.
Okay.
I only thought that was a company.
No, there you go. Fair enough.
No, Melbourne.
Melbourne, Australia.
But we're not here to talk about Melbourne.
No.
We're here to talk about the finale of Watchmen. This is Watchmen Episode 9, See How They Fly. And Sam, I'm going to assume that this is the premise, that this was the synopsis that was online. Everything ends.
In-depth one.
Yeah, everything ends for real this time. So let's dive in. So we've all been watching the show so far. You started catching up.
I waited 5 weeks before I started catching up.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I understand that I watched it originally, but I was a little trepidatious, maybe is the word I'm looking for, about going in because it just didn't feel like Watchmen to me. And even if it did, I didn't know if I needed a Watchmen show. Not really watched Damon Lindelof stuff. But then I watched the first episode and was very into it. So I understand maybe let it slide. But I'm glad you're here with us today. What are your thoughts, Rachel, starting with you? What are your thoughts of the show so far leading into this episode?
God, first of all, I think it's one of the best series of television I've ever seen. And I think that it built in a really cohesive, in a smart way. Like the first episode, I was kind of in the same boat as you. I was a little on the fence, but I went in with an open heart, and I liked it, but I was conflicted. Like there were some parts of it that I felt might have been problematic, but I couldn't understand why, and it made me ask a lot of good questions. But I was still not if somebody said, should I watch it, I would say yes. But I wasn't like, oh my God. And then as the series progressed, it just got better and better and better. And I think by episode 4, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
This is better than anything I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
And well thought out, and you can tell nuggets from episode 1 made sense in episode 7. It just was smart.
Yeah, 100%. Adam, what about you? So you caught up, you started episode 5, you caught up, then watched episode 5.
Yeah, and I was like you. I was very apprehensive. I didn't even like the trailers that much, to be completely honest with you. I thought it looked very mediocre, and I wasn't that interested. And I thought, okay, this comic book came out so many years ago. Do we really need to go back and rehash the story? I also stupidly thought that this was a sequel to the movie and not the graphic novel. So I went into it I don't kind of want more of that. I'm good. I had the movie, we had the comic book, I'm good, and I like the Minutemen stuff that they did a few years back.
Well, Darwin Cook, it was hard not to.
Right?
People like to poo-poo the before Watchmen, but it's but Darwin Cook. I mean, come on. You know what I mean?
Come on. So yeah, my roommate Zach finally convinced me. He said, "You got to watch it. You got to watch it. You got to watch it. I want to talk to you about it." So I was like, "Okay, fine. I'll watch episodes 1 through 4, and then I'll be at 5, and then I've watched it every week since. And what I told him was, this feels like a show, and I admittedly don't watch a ton of TV. I mostly watch movies. But this feels like a show compared to some other stuff that I've been watching that feels like everything was very meticulously pre-planned before they rolled one like megabyte of footage.
Yeah.
Which to me is really impressive, because I feel like a lot of the other shows I watch, like Titans and stuff, it feels like every week they're kind of like scrambling to figure out how to make it work and how to tie it all together.
Yeah.
Whereas this show did an incredible job of like planting seeds throughout 9 episodes, and then I would say most, if not everything, is paid off in the finale, and I thought that was really impressive.
There's one particular thing that is not paid off in the finale.
Does it include a lot of...
It's Lube Boy. Lube Boy. I want to figure out what his deal is, but we can talk about that.
That blew my mind.
Yeah,
and then it
like-
just went away.
It just went away, and it was so, because
Yeah.
something I've loved about this show all the way through is how willing it is to be unrelentingly weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you gotta let me know if you're gonna introduce Lube Boy. You gotta let me know who it is, and
Right.
I don't need any of that Pedopedia stuff. I need you to tell me in the show who it is. But diving into this episode, we begin with the last origin story of this show, which is Lady True. And it turns out that I guess she is the big bad of the season of the show. No, you don't.
Yeah, I mean, it just that blows. Honestly.
So just to describe for people, I don't know why you would be watching this review and not watching the show. You should go watch the show.
We're about to ruin
We're about to ruin the whole thing. But going into it, this has been like the second episode in a row. We're going into it, I was like, I don't know how I feel about where we're going. I was a little on the fence about revealing that Cal was Dr. Manhattan. And that episode ended up being great. But I was a little worried of like, is literally everybody going to be somebody's kid in this show? And while Lady True is in fact Vight's kid, I did like the way they introduce it, because what we find out is that one of his, they're servants. There's they're servants.
Indentured servitude,
Yeah, they're
maybe?
not, it's not a great situation.
No.
One of them, of course, is significantly smarter than he gave them credit for, figures out his little pass system, figures out that he has a wall of sperm behind Alexander the Great.
I mean, don't we all?
Amazing.
And then she impregnates herself.
Yeah.
And what I
Amazing.
like about that is that it makes sense, A, that Ozymandias would be more, I guess the term would be asexual. He's just not as interested in that.
Yeah.
And B, that of course he would underestimate the people around him, because that's
He's
what he-
Adrian Veidt.
Yeah, he's Adrian
That's his
Veidt.
character.
So, but you don't like this. You don't like that True is kind of our antagonist.
Well, I think that's a strong word for her.
Yeah.
Because I think up until the very last few moments, or episode, I should say, or last couple episodes,
Yeah.
her goal was confusing.
Mm-hmm.
And like, while I do agree, she's a narcissist.
Yeah.
And so even though she may be well-intentioned and may think I'm going to save the world, she's really saying I'm saving the world, like I want to.
Yeah.
So I understand that she's a narcissist, but thinking about like a big bad, thinking about something that is unrelentingly evil, I don't see her as that. I don't see her as like an arc villain.
Yeah, she's not the Joker or Lex Luthor.
Exactly. But yeah, I appreciate her journey, and I also think that I was about to say spoilers, but we already said that.
Yeah.
We're
Again,
past
spoilers.
it.
Yeah.
I also think it makes a ton of sense that she had to die, so that what's her name, Beyond?
Yeah. Her
Yeah.
daughter / mom.
Her daughter mom.
Her daughter mom.
Yeah,
mom. 'Cause,
mom murder, dom. Ooh, nope.
Yeah.
Hey, mater.
I think another thing that really helps it is Hong Chow is the actress who plays Lady True, and she is great. She's been great ever
So
since,
good.
I think we met her in episode 3 was the first time that she
it 3?
showed up. Yeah, in that cold open, which I think we can now assume that the object falling from space was
the ship.
was Dad,
Yeah.
who was their version of Carbonated in this world. Because as she grows up, she finds Veidt in his little hidey hole, and basically tries to proposition him into helping her save the world. And the interaction between her and Jeremy Irons and all that was really great. And he gives her the like I gave up everything, and now you're gonna have to give up everything and earn it yourself. And it also helps us understand when he was talking to John, Dr. Manhattan, in his thing. He said, "A little elephant told me that you were on Europa, she's the one that tells him that John is on Europa in this conversation here. Mm-hmm. And what did you think about the interaction between father and daughter? Just bonding time.
I mean, I loved the character's introduction. I thought it was very strong because this was a character that kind of came out of left field, and I wasn't sure whether this character was going to stick around and play into the bigger plot of the season, or whether it was just going to be a pawn to kind of move the rest of the pieces on the board. So I was surprised to find out, and they hinted towards it that she is Adrian's daughter, especially when he starts spelling out like "Save Me, D," and I was like, well, I don't think it's a person's name. I think it's going to be daughter, and then it was revealed that was in fact the case. But like, that's the one thing that I do like about the show is anything that you predict that happens, I'm never disappointed by how they explain it because it's always what I thought, but a lot more.
Yeah.
But in terms of the relationship, I think it played out like she is very much how Adrian is.
Yeah.
Like they're very much the same type of person. So to have that relationship on screen and to see someone else, two characters that are the same interacting like that is really fun to see narcissistic like behavior like that back and forth.
Speaking of predicting stuff, Sam, I think it was you who floated the idea in our conversations that was Veidt in the statue.
Yeah, I think so. Also, it's kind of cute when Lady True starts getting kind of teared up because Veidt used a bunch of bodies to spell daughter. It's like, love languages are a complicated thing, and it's very
really
sweet
are.
that they were able to find that out for each other.
Yeah, so we do find out.
So it was a cool reveal that ended up being true, and also it's a nice touch when you're able to add newer sci-fi elements to properties like this, like how nostalgia works and some carbonite freezing. Why not?
And one of the coolest looking spaceships I've seen in a while.
That was cool. Yeah.
But it turns out that Veidt has been kind of preparing his escape for a while, and we find out that the game warden was his creation because he wanted a worthy adversary. And this was the most kick in the balls part of the episode for me when he's like, "Master, was I a worthy adversary?" No.
I love that so much.
Veidt,
And he died that moment.
You are a son of a bitch. You couldn't be at least just tell him. Yeah, just tell him. Yeah, you did great, man. Good job.
Nope.
I'm the best. I think that what you were hinting at is that Sam inferred early on that there was something with the statue. But you can see it. I mean, like the first reveal of the statue, it has eyes in pain. Like the eyes are like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So I had a feeling that it was either something that was frozen in time or, dead. But I'm happy it's the former.
I did kind of when they pull him out, I kind of hope like, "Hey, Dad," and she like shoots him in the head immediately. Like that was just.
I thought he was gonna die instantly.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, guess what? The fight doesn't matter. It's game over. So she brings him to he's just sitting in her garden until the present.
Yeah, that would never happen though, because her whole mission is to impress him. Like, she's a mission-based villain, which is why they will always fail. Mission-based villains always fail, because if you have your eye on one prize and anything goes wrong, you're dead.
Well, we'll talk a little bit about the villain failing, because that's an interesting divergence from the original comic. But she wakes up Veidt just for the moment of we find out that her goal has also been to take Dr. Manhattan's powers. But Joe Keane doesn't know that. He thinks he's on top of the ball, and he gets a fairly lengthy, meaty villain monologue where he has to explain stuff like the watch batteries which, by the way, they were flying those somewhere, which I don't know if tracks, but whatever, that doesn't matter. I don't know. The watch batteries were made to create a prison for Manhattan, which they have successfully captured. And he wants the powers for himself, and he assembles all the top brass of Cyclops, which are still kicking around. Super wealthy, seems to be doing fine, which is a bummer. And he's even wearing the not tidy whities, but tidy. Yeah, exactly. Dr. Manhattan's little Speedo. What did you think about Keane's
I thought
big villain moment?
Yeah. Well, first of all, about the undies.
Yeah.
I thought there was a glitch on my television. I was like, is that like a lack of space? Like, is that a real thing?
No.
It is. Good. I love that they gave him the moment to build, and they were all, really feeling themselves just before their death. I love that.
Yeah.
That's super gratifying to me, because if they just died, it's like, yeah, that's what you expect.
Yeah.
If somebody's going to come in and swoop in and save the day, then you expect them to all die. But to be so angry and then immediately that switch
Yeah.
serotonin that's the good stuff.
There it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Angela comes in and she basically explains to them. I really like how intelligent the show is made, Angela, where she's able to be like, yeah, this is all Lady True stuff. She told me that this was happening before you guys were doing it. So like you've got a problem. And Lady True teleports them. And things don't work out so great for Keen. Couldn't have happened to a nicer
really
guy.
Quick,
Yeah, Sam.
Before we get to the Keen, I listened to, and I highly recommend this because I've mentioned it about a billion times. HBO has teamed up Craig Mazin, who ran Chernobyl, and Damon Lindelof to break down 3 episodes at a time of this show. And I listened to this episode, and it's wonderful. And they talk about that Keen's wearing the Vietnam era Manhattan outfit. That's what he wore when he was conquering Vietnam for the Americans, and that's what Keen is specifically mentioning for what his goal is. And also, it's very funny hearing Damon Lindelof kind of talk about this when he describes like half-baked way of getting masks to fight each other again as a platform to become president once again. And also, I love the reveal of it's Gila Flats, New Mexico, the birthplace of Dr. Manhattan, and I love that that's the gut reaction of a Dr. Manhattan who's got his brain fried a little bit, that he just goes bing, and that's where a guy showed up. I'm so glad he didn't end up halfway in a wall, but not really because he's a racist.
I will say something that was a little bit disappointing for me in this big speech moment. I think it was a concern. I really liked the way, specifically episodes 1 and 3 were very good about just letting you live in the world. And I think the past few episodes have become very burdened with having to explain things, which makes me kind of wish that maybe we'd done 12 episodes instead of 9.
Gotcha.
Because in this monologue, we get the this is how we determined who Dr. Manhattan was. This is why we needed the watch batteries. They have to explain, instead of us discovering it, it's somebody like literally explaining what's happening. And also they reveal, which makes sense because the reason they know Cal is Dr. Manhattan is because, as Sam said, one of the henchmen is teleported to Gila Flats. But then we find out that Judd was pretending to be friends with the Abars to accomplish this, and I find that a little bit of a disappointing reveal because it makes Judd significantly less complex of an antagonist. And it undermines this interesting. In the early episodes, they did a very interesting job of kind of presenting we live in a world where we have gun control. But in that first scene, it's complicated because, you know what I mean? The cop needs his gun and Panda's not buzzing. And it's just a complicated situation. And you have a complicated situation with Judd because he seems like a very loving, friendly person that is also a racist. And that happens. You can be you can do good things and be a bad person and vice versa and all that. And this kind of undercuts all that. It's no, Judd was just a bad guy. Yeah. And it's understandable because how they found out who Manhattan is, but it was a little bit disappointing to me.
Right.
Yeah.
What I'm curious about with that is that is disappointing, but what might be interesting is if they are seeding to the next season with his oldest child.
Yeah.
Because there's
Don't make another season, please.
Why?
Well, I think we should talk about this more after we go through the episode because Damon Lindelof has said that there are no plans for a second season, but they also said that,
how do you
they also
end
say
a first season like that and then not have a second season?
I think that's a worth discussion on whether we think it actually will happen or not.
You guys are thinking too creatively. I'm thinking as a studio, as somebody who's part of a network.
Yeah.
If I'm working at HBO, there's not a chance I'm going to let that
Fun
season
fact.
2 go.
Quick thing. They actually, again, I'm going to just reference the podcast because, hey, if you don't have to listen to it, I'll just tell you what happens.
I am going to listen to it. I've been enjoying it.
But Tim Blake Nelson got lunch with Damon Lindelof, and they were talking about how they're going over the finale. And Tim was talking about oh man, I can't wait for season 2. And Damon was oh no, we're not that's not the plan. We're not going to do that. And he got visibly angry because he's that's not how it works, because he's you think you're going to give people the biggest cliffhanger of the decade and then not pay it off. And Damon talks about how he sees it the way Inception ends, not the way that it's a lead to something else. And Tim had the exact opposite feeling of that, which we can talk about later as we get to the end.
Yeah, we'll talk about the end. I will say I found the end not great.
It's great.
Spoilers.
It's great if there's a season 2.
I actually think it's worse if there's a season 2.
Come on.
Yeah,
I need answers.
because it makes Angela a less interesting character, in my opinion.
But I have like a whole. Okay.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get to it. We'll get to it because we also get a moment. Speaking of Tim Blake Nelson, we get the return of Looking Glass, and he's like, "Don't worry, Lori. When the moment happens, I'm going to help out," and which ends up not mattering.
Yeah.
But I don't know about you guys.
The moment was him throwing up.
When I saw he was there, I was like, hell yeah. Also, really liked when all the guns get sucked out of it. The way they visualize that, like the guns getting sucked up by the magnet, was really cool.
Yeah.
But Lady True teleports them to the Dr. Manhattan phone booths, which we found out earlier that she's the one running.
Yeah.
And she has this giant space engine of destruction ready to suck up. Nobody knew that Dr. Manhattan, all you have to do is eat some of his matter and you're fine, because she has this whole thing prepared.
Yeah.
And Keen is just a big old blob on the ground.
Yep.
And Dr. Manhattan uses it to teleport Vite, Looking Glass, and Lori to Karnak. So...
Yes.
Adam, what did you kind of think about this situation on Karnak with this group of characters?
So I thought originally these characters were going to play more into, and they do, but I thought they're going to play a little bit more into the resolution of what happens at the actual location.
Yeah.
I never expected that we were going to transport these characters to Karnak. And
We spent a lot of money on that set. We got to go.
You got to utilize it, right? I mean, you already put so much money into it. But there's a little part of me that wishes that we would got just a little bit more with Looking Glass and Lori. But I also understand that at this current point in the story, it's not really about that. It's about resolving sort of like what's been built up in this episode and what's been built up in part of the latter half, mostly the latter half of the season. But I love the interaction with those characters, and I never thought I would need to see like OG Watchmen characters in this show.
Yeah.
But I loved seeing at least Adrian and Lori interacting together again, and seeing sort of like where that relationship has kind of come to in the last like 30 some odd years.
Yeah.
We don't get a lot of it, but we get enough that I'm like, oh man, it's good to see a lot of these characters together, even though, like, again, it's not a sequel to the movie, it's a sequel to the graphic novel, but seeing that is cool. And I love the idea that Ozymandias uses the squid to take out everything. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah, and so and Vite once again is responsible for quote unquote saving the world. Sam, what did you think of the master plan of the squid bullets, the frozen squid bullets?
Well, kind of winding it back for a second, speaking of like old Watchmen characters interacting, when Lori sees Dr. Manhattan, there's that moment where she kind of goes, it's like her breath catches for a second. No, I don't think it's she's got complicated feelings, to say the least, based on that wow thing we saw, the crazy dildo we saw a couple episodes ago, which was hilarious. Yeah. But that was so funny. Anyways, but I like that little moment where she catches her breath. That I kind of want to dive into that more. But also, I liked Ozymandias' interactions with the newspaper stand, the man who runs that, because they talk about he's like a has-been. He ran away into the jungle and just disappeared. He's like, oh, I know where he was. And it's like, oh, also that he could do parties. Yeah. Which I'm like, that's not a bad plan for an old costume adventurer. That if he ended up doing birthday parties, it could be lucrative, especially since he's such a business-minded fellow.
I'd watch a web series of him doing birthday parties. Yeah. That'd be pretty cool.
I like the idea that the whole point, they establish it in the beginning of this episode, that at a certain point in the stratosphere, they can't tell what kind of meteorological event it's going to be. So, and they can't tell that it's also teleporting in squid. So that just it's no one knows what to do with that information. And basically, if you just kind of harden up the squids just a tiny bit, they turn into. An entire idea is pretty wonderful. And just as a tete-a-tete, that I'm using that term 100% wrong, between
We're not going to stop you, go for
Ozymandias. Yeah, context is everything. For taking each other out in that fashion, it kind of felt perfect for both parties.
The visual of the hole in True's hand was really cool. Yeah. And I will say there was if those are strong enough to, he describes them as like assault weapon bullets. If they're strong enough to tear through that thing, but they're like not going through cop cars, and they're not. And when she goes in the theater, I'm like, they're still going through.
And she just puts like a door on her head.
Yeah, I did like the way, even though whether it tracks or not, I did like the way the show communicated that, because she sees that it's not going through that, so she uses that.
Yeah,
Whether it would or not, that's an open question. Sure. But the way it visualized that information to the audience,
she's
I thought
a smart
was
lady.
Yeah, she's great. I was a little bummed because he's like, everybody in 5 blocks is going to be murdered, and like not one of those side like Red Scare and Pirate Jenny, they're fine.
They're totally
it's
fine.
just a bunch of.
I thought you said.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of. Which I don't know if we've ever seen with the cop cars before, but they're light. We must have, but the lights are yellow and red as opposed to blue and red, which is interesting. But so when Angela escapes, she goes in a theater where she runs into her grandfather, Will. Rachel, what did you think of her interactions with her this all the secrets are out. They're able to open it, which, by the way, I had a mini panic attack when she went to the theater and I saw bodies on the stage. I'm like, what's on? Oh, it's the kids. They're napping. It's okay. It's okay. It's all right.
I know. It was like a very nefarious scene to walk into. And then you're like, oh, I know these people. Okay, cool. Why is this old man watching these kids sleep on his stage? I don't get it. Okay. I struggle because I feel like there's a lot of potential in this relationship that wasn't explored properly through these 9 episodes.
Yeah.
I just needed to see more interaction between them, more like sharing that isn't literally just eating memories. I mean, that's good sharing.
Yeah.
But
I mean, if you can do it, go for it. But there's other types.
But communication is key.
Yeah.
And then towards the end of it, I had conflicting feelings about him. I guess that's good. I had conflicting feelings about him as character and like what he was willing to do to get his mission done. Like I said before, I'm not a fan of mission-based people. Like if you have one thing in mind, that means that everything else in the story doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So like, I struggle with it, but at the same time, like, the reveal throughout the season of his true identity and what that means for her and potentially her future. Sorry. That's cool to me because she doesn't like mass people and now she is one. Maybe.
Yeah. Interesting. I want to get everybody's thoughts on the something that stuck with me is the idea that one, we get 2 villain speeches for the price of 1 in this episode because we get Keen's like, this is my plan. And then he dies. And then True's like, actually, here's my plan. You know what I mean? But also the bad guys lose, which is a big swerve from the comic. The comic really, it's like the ultimate Pyrrhic victory. Like, hey, world saved, but 1 billion people had to die. Like it just is. It was really rough. What did y'all think? Adam, let's start with you. What did we think about the fact that the bad guys lose?
I mean, I know it's a departure from the original material. I feel like though, with all the themes that it's played with this entire season, I feel like if you would have ended with the villains losing, I don't know. I'm really curious to see what people in general would think about that. About having all these important themes and talking about the world that we live in, the state that our country is in, all that sort of stuff, and then letting the villain lose. Would people walk away from that? Well, then what was the point?
You mean letting the hero lose?
Or letting the hero lose, sorry. Like, was all this done for nothing?
Yeah.
Like, what was the point of having all this buildup and all this sort of stuff if the bad guys are the ones who win? I don't know. I'm personally fine with the way it ends with the heroes winning. I mean, there's still a lot of destruction and a lot of stuff that happened to sort of get to that point. So there's losses on both ends. But I was satisfied with how it ended. And I think part of that is also because Damon Lindelof doesn't seem to be interested in doing a season 2. So it's like, well, if this is the story and this is it, let's just cap it off with the heroes winning. Yeah. And I think that would just sit better with people today. Yeah.
Rich, what about you? What do you think about this? It feels like a more cohesive victory.
Yeah. I mean, I think the smarter people won, and that's what I'm always looking for. Like, if the smartest one in the room is the one winning, then I'm pretty okay with it. And I think at the end, the collection of people that were the good guys were supposed to win. Like it felt right to me. It didn't feel like I was being handed anything for being like a good girl, you know.
Spoon-fed.
Yeah, exactly. I felt good about it. I mean, that being said, I think it did, like, I don't think it buttoned it up because of the very end. Yeah. But yeah, I liked it.
Sam, what do you think about how that all wound up?
I mean, I think it was earned. One of the best moments of the whole show is Lady True being surprised, like, wait a minute, where's Keen? Let's go find out what's up with him. And like a balloon. It was such a well-earned villain speech because let's be real, you got none of those in the original Watchmen. So like, since this is a sequel, we got to double up. We got to get a couple of those in here. Like Ozymandias explains his plan, but the whole time I'm too stupid to figure out what's happening. So I appreciated it, and I think they earned the victory. And also when you kind of learn that like Dr. Manhattan had more of a hand in what this plan was from the get-go with Will's involvement, it feels like it makes it easier to swallow like what happened. It becomes more palatable that even though our heroes won, it's because there's a higher power that may have influenced some of the events that were happening.
Maybe that's also part of my issue with the finale is maybe it's a little bit too palatable for me. It's like, well, don't worry about Judd getting hanged because he was definitely a bad guy, and don't worry about Dr. Manhattan was in on being killed, so don't be too mad at Will because it wasn't. And it's like it would have been more interesting if Will just threw Dr. Manhattan under a bus, like it's just because like you said, he's very mission focused. So the day is saved. Laurie and Looking Glass are set to arrest Ozymandias, which he can't really process.
Laughs it off.
Yeah, he's just like, oh, whatever. But Looking Glass smacks him back of the head with a wrench, and we get back to the home. And what Will tells Angela is that what Will tells Angela that John told him is that you got to break a few eggs to make some omelets. She sees the eggs from the previous episode, which we knew that I guess he can just put his matter in food and you eat it and you're fine.
Damn.
And she eats one of the eggs and goes to step on the pool, theoretically having his abilities. And you clearly have thoughts on this. So let's dive into that.
I mean, I don't have like grand thoughts. I just like it.
Yeah.
I mean, I just like it. I like her as I'm curious to hear as to why like you're not into her taking these abilities, but I just like her character so much. And I think she is conflicted and there's a lot of real pain with her, and I want to see that in a superhero. And I don't know. It got me amped. Like when she stepped her foot on the water, I was like, yeah. So I mean, I want to see season 2, but I'm also too curious to know why. I should be wrong. Why am I wrong? Tell me why I'm wrong.
I mean, I'm all for the setup of like she inherits Dr. Manhattan's abilities. My biggest worry when these sort of shows are so, for the most part, so damn good, it's all downhill from here. And like we've seen that before with a lot of other shows where they start really, really strong in season 1, and you get into season 2, and right off the first episode, you're like, God damn it, you should have ended it with the first season. And I really like the idea of like not having to have everything overly explained, spending so much time in this world that it's like, okay, are we doing the rinse and repeat thing again? I think if you did a season 2, I'd want to see something totally different.
Yeah.
New city, new characters, reference the events of the first season, but like I don't necessarily want to just do the same thing over again.
I mean, well, if it ends the way it looks like it's going to end, which I think the implication is there, because in the second to last episode, John specifically points out, I need you to see me on the pool. It would make sense to stop in with other characters because it would be very challenging to have Angela remain our protagonist if she has Dr. Manhattan's abilities. Sam, what did you think about the it's not a twist, the end? What did you think about the end?
There's no twist.
I think you're gonna have to wind it back a little bit because I agree with Rachel because I want more. Like I want more, and I think there's something pretty magical about Angela's evolution. If it does end up being that she gets abilities, she probably does. You know, like that. Let's just say that she probably does get Dr. Manhattan's abilities. But winding it back, because once John chooses to have Angela with him and makes a conscious decision in that relationship to be with the person that he does love at the moment he's going to die, I don't know about you guys, I was emotionally just a wreck. I was fully invested, and I was bawling like a little baby by myself down under. And because I bought it, I understood it, and I appreciated it, and but also adjacent to that, when Will starts talking about Dr. Manhattan's plans, but also what masks mean, that it wasn't fear or it wasn't anger that he had with him when he was Hooded Justice. It was fear and what was it, sadness and fear. That's what. And wounds you can't cover up wounds. They need air.
Yeah.
And the idea that Angela is the manifestation of not just losing her own parents, but also Will's history, especially through nostalgia, and also just maybe genetic memory that we kind of like learn about. It's an idea that's brought up through this show. That at the end of this show, she gets to deal with that, like national trauma, racial trauma, her own family, everything that she's been through, and she's able to evolve into a higher being, emotionally and mentally, and also physically. There's something really, really beautiful about that. That yes, Watchmen, the gotcha moment of the comic is beautiful, but also in this, dealing with modern day issues the way that comic dealt with the nuclear crisis, this kind of feels like a perfect ending to that story. That it just opens the door to anything. That doesn't mean she's going to be a perfect god or whatever she's going to be, but she has some tools that other people in her own family haven't been able to tap into before. So I would like a season 2, but at the same time, I like it more as a moment that she gets to evolve, because she's not like wearing the mask in the last couple episodes.
Yeah.
She gets to be herself. She has accepted Will to whatever degree that she can. She's had to say goodbye to Cal and understand that that's not it. She can't have that secret anymore, and she's just going to be a parent now, or she's going to be whatever she's going to be. So more of that is well, I want it. I want it now, and I want it. But I'm also okay with this being the ending. Mainly, here's a question for you guys. While Angela is our main character and I think deserving of the egg, do you think there might have been a more deserving character on the show vis-a-vis Lube Man, a.k.a. Silver Surfer?
Yeah.
Well, Lube Man for sure.
Yeah.
But I think you actually touched on what I would want the next season to be, which is her evolution into becoming kind of this benevolent being. Like she is dealing with the trauma of her past and how to move forward from that and potentially become this, godlike thing. So I would want to see in the next season, like, her not get the powers immediately. Like, I don't think that that's how powers work, just judging by all of the comic books, I don't want to see her get the powers immediately. I want to see, like, 2 or 3 episodes of her acquiring and her figuring herself out and then her learning. Because I still want her to be, as much as I love Lube Man, I still want her to be the focus because I adore her and will follow her
Regina
into the
King
dark.
was incredible.
She was very incredible. And I think, that's another, it goes into episode 1. I thought we established a very interesting, compelling, magnetic figure. And part of me feels like the show has been spending the rest of the show really trying to convince me of something I was already convinced of, which is that she's great.
I'm sold.
Not only is she great, but her grandfather's the first superhero. And not only that, she's married to the most powerful person. And it's like, it's interesting now, coming to the end of the show, I think we could say the original Watchmen was very much an ensemble piece. This show is not.
Yeah.
It is Angela's story. It'd be like Watchmen if Laurie was the one investigating comedian's murder, and then Laurie was already dating Dr. Manhattan, but also Laurie stopped Dr. Ozymandias, and also she got the powers at the end, and it's like... And I think that's why I don't really like the idea of her getting the powers, because it makes her like John. And it's weird that people assume that you could do more with the powers than John did. Because John, I think, was very clear about, like, I really don't have any control over what happens is what happened, and then I'm going to do that thing. And I don't really have any say.
He's also had those abilities for years and years and years and years and years. So it's like, you would imagine that a character who's had those abilities for that long has figured out exactly what he can and can't do.
Yeah.
But don't you want to see the genesis of a new Dr. Manhattan?
I think it would have been interesting. There was a moment where I thought maybe it was the kids, and that's a show I'd watch.
I thought so too.
If Angela has to race 3 Dr. Manhattans, that is a season 2.
Thought that one of the kids is going to inherit the ability.
Yeah, if that is a season 2, I would watch. If
That's
it's just
a sitcom. That's like a good sitcom.
But like it could be interesting, because then you have the idea of what information do you impart to these beings to make them good. Because John was not good at being. This is the people on Europa have now had 2. They just want to worship somebody, and now 2 people have bailed on them. Like if we do get a season 2 when we visit Europa, it's gonna be bad. It's gonna not be great.
Yeah, I don't know, and I don't want to, like, this isn't like a card to play, or like, supposed to be any sort of provocative statement. But I do want to see a female Dr. Manhattan because it's a different sensibility.
Yeah.
And like there's a lot of things that happen with the John Dr. Manhattan that honestly, as a woman, just probably wouldn't have gone that way. And I know
because
that
he still deals with he's still a sexual being. Like
he's still got that thing on him.
As much as he pretends like he's up beyond stuff like that, he's not. He's not. He's still limited by
Let's
that.
not pretend we didn't look at a naked Yaya and go, God bless you, man.
Yeah. But because that's the thing. It's like I think a lot of people are like, yes, he is a god and like he can see all of time and space at one time, but you're still seeing all of time and space from your perspective.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
You can live for millions and millions of years and still only have your perspective. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of like interesting things, but then there's also so many layers of there's so many sensitivities with that like if we were going to go into a season 2 with a woman of color who is Dr. Manhattan, like what does that mean? What does that writer's room look like it has to be buttoned up.
Well, Damon Lindelof, and we're kind of answering a question, by the way. STS 2084 asked us on the Discord, what do you want from a season 2, which is kind of what we're answering. Damon Lindelof has suggested that maybe there could be a season 2 without him. And I believe it's Killing Eve. Every season's a different female showrunner. Oh. You know what I mean? So you could maybe have somebody else come in. I've also floated the idea that like I wouldn't be surprised if season 2 of Watchmen is actually a Minutemen show. We go back to the actor that played Young Will and Captain Metropolis.
Tell me that Superman story.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, and get back to because we got the Darwin Cook graphic novel, but like that's something the show could explore relatively pain-free,
Yeah. I guess that's but that's part of like, I would say a little bit of my concern is I would love to see her evolution as Dr. Manhattan, but I don't want it to become a rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
And if you're going to do that, do it like you did the first season. Don't rush them into doing a season 2. Let them figure out every single little like story detail before, and like don't be like, okay, well, the audience demands it, so we need to have it done by next fall. Like, well, if you don't have the story, don't do it.
Yeah.
I don't want to flash season 2 where season 1's great and season 2 is a dumpster fire. Yeah. Like, really take the time to develop all this stuff. Like, make me really care about a season 2.
Speaking of a potential season 2, Danny M on the Discord asks us, what do you guys think about Ozymandias being arrested? Do we? Honestly, if I were Looking Glass and Laurie, I would have just shot him in the head because it's like going through a trial. That's going to be more trouble than it's worth.
Yeah.
Just kill him and be done with it.
All these squids are flying around. Just like throw it at him.
Yeah, maybe throw him back to Europa. Something. Just I don't know. Just like it's going to be too much trouble to do a trial for this guy. Yeah. Like, do you think he'd be arrested? Do you think we'd get a trial?
I don't want to watch that.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a mistrial. Like, I think that they would, like, tease the trial, and then something would happen, and he'd be like, cool.
Yeah.
I did think all the OG Watchmen characters were going to all be done. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. I don't know. Currently, I'm not interested in seeing the trial of Adrian Veidt.
Yeah. What about you, Sam? Do you want the trial of Adrian Veidt?
I mean, I think we kind of get it in this season, even though it's very clear that he scripted out literally everything that has happened in that world, and he's still not happy. I like more of the idea because when he's being arrested, he brings up the idea that the world's going to end. And Laurie, I love Jean Smart's the flippin' best. I love her line where it's like, yeah, everybody keeps saying that, but it never happens. Never happens. And I love that idea that we get to see what the world looks like because he is on trial. Not about the trial, like not about like, and now Matt Murdock, but the Watchmen version of him comes in and like explains why he's not guilty because he was on prison on Europa. They don't have jurisdiction up there, or whatever. Like that part's okay. What's I find to be more interesting is to seeing how the world evolves, because now Redford's probably going to be kicked out of office. And what does that mean? Because Keene was like the next guy, but now we saw he popped like a balloon. Yeah. Jesus, I feel awful saying that about a human, but hey, he's a racist.
He's a bad
guy.
Son of a bitch.
So, Sam.
I agree with you, Sam.
So Adam, nay, season 2.
There's a lot of what ifs.
Rachel, yay, season 2.
Yeah, I mean, I agree they have to do it right, but I would hope that everybody, does their job well.
Well, yeah. I mean, it could be like Fleabag where you got to wait 3 years or however long for another season of that.
I'm patient. I'll wait 3 years if I have to.
Sam, are you yay or nay season 2 of Watchmen?
Well, I'll piggyback off of Adam. You mentioned the Flash season 2. What if we got an evil version of Dr. Manhattan, though, versus
The
Angela
reverse
Dr.
Manhattan.
Manhattan? Yeah.
Dr.
Like,
Bronx.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Mr. Bronx. He's not a doctor.
He's not a doctor. He didn't get his PhD.
He's a dentist.
It's like Mount Shasta or whatever that fake soda is. Whatever the bad soda is.
I will be.
Dr. Thunder.
I'm going to go on the side of yay season 2 just because I didn't like how it felt more like a shrug of a finale where like we were building up so many great things and it's like we dropped the squid bullets on the bad guys and we won and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, it felt like we were getting to something grander than that, but all right, okay.
I mean, DJ, you were pitching two Manhattans fighting, punching each other in the sky above Tulsa. So you kind of
to be fair, that's not exactly what I was suggesting. I did suggest that perhaps because there's so many allusions to Superman, specifically when Lady True buys the farm and the thing falls to Earth.
His last name is Reeves.
His last name is Reeves, which is Bass Reeves, but still, George Reeves, Christopher Reeves, yeah, all that stuff. And the Action Comics mention in the flashback, the nostalgia episode, that I thought maybe Lady True was creating her own superhuman, which she was, but I thought she was creating her own superhuman with the cloning technology and all that stuff. So we might get a new, maybe easier to write version of Dr. Manhattan, because I imagine it's a pain in the ass to write that character. And I think that also leads to another part of maybe something that, because you talked about you wanted more time to flesh out the Angela Will dynamic. I think this season could have, this is very rarely the case. Almost never do shows need more episodes. This is one that I think could have benefited from it because we could have fleshed out that relationship more. We could have spent more time on
mother-daughter?
Yeah, literally just this episode we found out Lady True was our bad guy. Just now we found out.
I know.
Even though we've had Cal and Angela be in a relationship the whole season, we just understood that relationship an episode ago. And now the whole crux of the episode is dependent on your feelings toward that relationship you literally just found out about. I think we could have had more time to, and also it maybe would have dealt with some of our exposition stuff where we could have discovered things instead of somebody being like, I'm going to tell you what's going on, you know?
Yeah.
I would. This is one of the very few times where it's like, maybe even just one more episode.
Solid 10.
Yeah, solid 10. You know, you want 12 because the comic was 12.
I could mess around with a 12. Every character is so good and so interesting that I want a full episode on all of them.
Yeah.
I can't get over mother-daughter, and I never will. I need to know where
she's still around. She's still around.
I know. And what must her life be like now?
Probably not great.
Not great.
Also, so her memory is walking away from a fire, but we see that, which we associated with the mother-daughter's memory of mom's memories walking away from a fire, which we associated with the Vietnam conflict. But could it have been like walking away from the lab when it was melting down? Like, or maybe something that happened after?
Unanswered questions.
I think, honestly,
she was a Vietnam refugee. That's what they mentioned in the beginning of the episode.
That I guess Vite swooped up. So let's go through and rate it. And any final thoughts you might have with your rating?
I have a final question. I don't know if you're going to bring this up. I might be jumping the gun here. Favorite episode?
Oh, good question, Rachel.
Zoinks.
Sorry.
I don't know which one was episode 4.
Episode 4 was where we, because episode 3 was the Lori episode.
Was the what?
Lori, where we first met Lori and all that stuff. So
I remember distinctly after episode 4 being like, holy shit. Like that was like the turning point for me. But the John wow, what's her name?
Which one?
You know, Regina King.
Oh, Angela Abar. Yeah.
The John Angela episode
where they were into Abar.
And what I also really love about it is that they were both on, when I first moved to Los Angeles, I worked for their manager.
Oh, wow.
And they are two of the nicest people. And that says a lot. If you're nice to your manager's assistant, whew. Ooh, doggy. And they were very kind, both of them. So kind. So yeah, I just, I like seeing it. You love to see it. So I think that episode, the one where they were going back in time and sharing their memories, like that was moving in a special way. Yeah. To me.
Definitely. Adam, what about you? Favorite episode?
I have 2. I'm cheating. A God walks into a bar. Amazing. I thought the way that whole thing was written was incredible. and just the back and forth was so intriguing. And then I forget what the episode's called, but it's Hooded Justice's origin story.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I was completely...
That was
my
This
brain
Extraordinary
was flipped
Being.
inside out.
What were you
was
saying,
it?
Sam?
Oh, sorry. It cut out there for just a second. It was This Extraordinary Being, episode 6. That
Yes.
was the origin
amazing.
story.
Real.
So, Sam, what was your favorite episode?
It's between This Extraordinary Being, and I can't knock. You gotta give a nod to Little Fear of Lightning, where we learn about Looking Glass and you see the squid, and then you see the ad for people to move back to New York.
Yeah.
Because that's so tone deaf. But my personal favorite is God Walks into A Bar, because it has one of my favorite comedy beats of 2019. Of him walking in naked into Karnak, and Ozymandias turning around, and it was like, "Hey, John," and he's perplexed why he knows who he is, and it's like, "Are you kidding me?" Like,
He's like, I would know that anyway. Go for it.
Sorry, just really quick. I just wanted to say that and one of the most profound moments of making Dr. Manhattan understandable to general audiences really quick, of the way he perceives time, of literally the last memory he has is the ring going in, and then the show picks back up right when it gets removed, and it made me understand more how he perceives time, the way he falls in love with her, that he's not in love with her when he meets Angela, but he will be. So he already has all those feelings and everything. He just hasn't experienced the moment before. We know that from the comic book, but it was such a beautiful moment of being able to understand that that's how he can get emotional attachments. They're just way out of order and really confusing.
Yeah.
But I thought they nailed the Dr. Manhattan perspective in that episode.
For me, I still really love the episode where we first meet Lori, which is episode 3, just because that actress is Jean Smart's so good. Everybody on the show is really good. There's not a weak link in the cast. No. They're all A+, very amazing actors and actresses. But also, what did you say was A Little Fear of Lightning, the Looking Glass episode? I thought was cool, and I'm glad that we have a Rorschach adjacent character that I don't have mixed feelings about rooting for.
Yeah.
That's fun. So now let's go into our ratings let's give the rating of this episode and the season as a whole.
Oof.
The season as a whole, any final thoughts you might have?
No,
Please.
You first. I went first last.
Is it out of 10? Is it out of 5?
Let's do 10. Let's do 10. Sometimes we like to do fun little things, but we'll just do a solid 10 this time.
I mean, this is going to be controversial. I don't give a shit. I give it a solid 10. The season.
Dang.
The whole season.
What about this episode?
This episode, probably like a 9.
A 5. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Probably like a 3.
Yeah.
No, I'd probably give it like a 9.25. I don't know. I don't really care about those, but I'd give it a solid 9 out of 10. Mm-hmm. There are definitely some things that I thought as I'm watching it, I'm thinking, well, I really kind of like what you were saying, which also rarely happens. I wish we'd had a little bit more time with Lady True.
Yeah.
Kind of establish sort of what everything is happening here. But overall, how it plays into the larger arc of the whole season, I was pretty damn satisfied with how it ended. And it's probably one of my favorite shows that I've seen in a long time. That doesn't really say much because I don't really watch that much TV. Mm-hmm. But in terms of superhero stuff, yeah, it's definitely the best thing that's out there right now.
Yeah, definitely. Sam, what about you? What's your rating for this episode and the season as a whole? And any final thoughts you might have?
10 out of 10 for all of the above. Genuinely, I after I watched this, I told my girlfriend that I felt embarrassed that I've ever recommended a different show to her before. That I was like, oh, you should just watch this one. And just don't ignore everything I've ever said before. That's okay. You don't have to watch Harley Quinn on DC Universe. Sorry. Watch this show. Even though I love that.
Yeah.
And that's for a different audience. Please watch this show because I loved it. And I think... Adam, I don't know if you saw. I think Hector tweeted out something that just resonated with me a lot when he said he mentioned that he enjoyed this, and he thought it was a more executed story than a more well executed story than the comic overall. Not digging at the comic. I don't know. I saw a tweet or something that from him or someone adjacent, and it resonated with me that I was like, this is. I'm judging this away from the comic that I think I enjoy this story more because of how the way these characters become humanized in the real world in different contexts compared to the comic. Not that one was done poorer than the other. I just appreciate how these storytellers came together to tell this story, because the magic of Watchmen is that it was just two people, along with editors and letterers and whatnot. But like, it's just two people, and with this is a group of people who are dedicated to telling this story, and I think they nailed it. And we've seen, and just the big note for me is just that I think the big thumbs up is from the Dr. Manhattan episode, because it really hammered home that Dr. Manhattan is a human being at his core. He has human emotions, and he has love he wants love, and he wants to be loved, and the exploration of that in this season really did it for me. I'm a sap. I love it. And also time travel elements dealing with relationships, like Time Traveler's Wife or About Time. I eat all that up. I watch all those movies. So
I knew About Time was going to come up. I knew where that was going.
10 out of 10. We got to go watch About Time now. A companion piece.
I think for me, I would give this episode. I honestly, I think it was probably my least favorite of the season, which is a bummer because of the finale. I'd give it maybe an 8. Still incredibly well acted. And still had like dialogue.
That's still a high score.
Yeah. Still, give it an 8. And I dropped it a little bit more because why introduce Lou Boy? That's not like the tease at the end with the pool. That's, you just drop something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you could have just cut it out and the show would have functioned the same. So you got it. It's PD. People have sent me articles from PDpedia, which is the extra material that HBO is dropping that heavily implies that it's PD. But again, why introduce it if you're just going to like pretend that it didn't happen? Just saying.
Season 2.
Season 2.
I'm just waiting for that Lube Boy TikTok channel. Let's go. I want to see you guys sliding down the street.
I would follow.
And it's going to be Lou Boy's going to have to teach Manhattan Regina King how to be a god. Like, just he's going to be the one that grounds her. This show overall, I would give probably 9. It was very well executed. It was very well thought out. I think I feel like in the end, its goals and what it tried to accomplish are less complicated than what Watchmen tried to do, which it initially didn't appear that was going to be the case, and now at the end, it's like it feels a little bit less rich than the material that suggested and the material it's pulling from, but it's still, again, one of the best casts in TV this year, if not the decade or whatever, and really solid writing and very intentful. They knew what they were trying to do, and they knew what they were saying. And if nothing else, I wish more media would be as intentful as they were here. So now we're back to you.
No way.
You didn't go first, so now you get to be the last word on it.
Now I just get to repeat everybody.
Yeah.
Well, the series as a whole, I can give it a solid 10.
Yeah.
It's everything that I like. Like Sam, I am a sucker for both time travel and multiverse conversation. Give that to me, and I'm like, 10 out of 10.
No.
So yeah, I love everything about it, like interpersonal relationships, sci-fi with. I keep like having flashbacks to moments in the series that are making me very upset, which is good. Mm-hmm. It's like a nice thing, because usually with shows like this, it's like, this is something that me and my dad really like watching together. My mom is not into it. But this is the one show where I'm like, I don't care who you are, like, watch this show.
Yeah.
And you can tell that it's written through many perspectives, and you can tell that it's like carefully thought out, and they're not lackadaisical with the platform that they have and with the thing that they're trying to say. I do agree that at the beginning of the series, I thought it was going to be something completely different. Mm-hmm. That it ended up being kind of a little bit more, I mean, not simple. We're talking about, time is a flat circle stuff, but it turned into a little bit less political. Mm-hmm. But I think it's kind of a perfect show, like funny and scary and amazing. This last episode, probably, honestly, I'd have to say like an 8.5 or 9, because I think the rest of it held it to such a high standard. I would say the only other episode that I would say that would be in that category would be like the first episode.
Mm-hmm. For me, it's 2.
Really?
2 felt like it was the most spinning its wheels of like, we got mysteries, we can't say things, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
but
maybe just that first episode, I was like, I need more mystery.
Yeah.
I need more. But the last episode, I needed more in general. Like, the pacing, I think, was a little bit too fast, like you were talking about.
No.
Like the I hope that there's a season 2 so we can explore these relationships, like Will and Angela and mommy daughter and Luke boy. So yeah, that the only reason why I'm giving it an 8.5 to 9 is for those 3 reasons, and that's literally it.
Yeah.
Like nothing else is perfect.
It says a lot that the argument is we want more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just a little bit more time, which again is rare. Normally it's like, oof, this should have been less episodes.
It's me every time I watch one of these new damn shows.
Yeah, it could have been less episodes. But so those are our thoughts on not only the Watchmen finale, but the Watchmen series as a whole that we've gotten. Let us know in the chat or the comments whether you'd like a season 2, what you would like to see. Kayla Marie in the chat says she really loved the fear monologue, the monologue in the theater, and the commentary on mass superheroes in general is awesome. So please be a part of that conversation yourself. Let us know in the comments. Be nice to each other down there. Let's go down the line and tell people, where they can follow you, what you're doing.
Sure,
Yeah.
yes. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Rachel Sam Evans or Rachel Sam Vans. Depends on how your brain works. And yeah, I have a couple fun things coming out that I can't talk about.
Oh, okay.
Which is cool.
Well, that's just why you should follow her so you can find out.
Yeah, I've recently lost over 500 followers on Instagram because I stopped posting as many pictures of my butt. So if you would like to follow me and make up for those, that'd be great.
There you go. There you go. If you want less butt photos in your life.
Yeah, there's still like 2.
Yeah, they're still there. The old ones aren't there.
No, I did archive them.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
But let's show some support and get those numbers back up. Adam, what about you?
You can find me every week on Hyper Heroes, on Hyper RPG, and my social media is just my name, Adam Hlavik. Very simple, unless you can't spell it, which I totally understand. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, also have stuff, working on stuff, can't talk about it. But thank you so much for having me here.
No, thank you both for coming.
Yeah,
Sam,
yeah.
literally, where can people find you in case you get lost? So we know where to.
Okay.
At the airport.
Write down these coordinates in case I need to do an SOS. Follow me at Sam Basher. I'm posting pictures of little animals I see, weird birds. You know they have parrots here that just act as pigeons. They just scream at you from the trees.
No.
Anywho, I'll be back soon in the States with many tales to regale of Australia, and also I can't wait to dive into Doomsday Clock. If anyone watching this video wants to have more Watchmen discussions, don't worry, baby boys and girls. We're going to be doing. Don't you worry.
We won't worry. Also, if you want to follow what we're doing on the podcast, you can go to at Only Stupid Answers, yank out the vowels from stupid. You can follow me at DJ Talks Trash. I'll mostly probably be talking about stuff like this and ripping on the Mandalorian. But yeah, so new podcast episodes every Monday. We're going to have a Star Wars review coming up sometime this week, so stay tuned for that. We got more guests for that. A lot of exciting things going on as we go into the holidays, so stay tuned. And if you want more behind the scenes, you could have watched this live. You could have watched Watchmen with me live. You can go to patreon.com/onlystupidanswers. I think that's all the things, and we'll be seeing you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.